Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dungeon Dive. Daniel here. All right, today we are going to be taking a look at the Dungeon of D. So this is a game created by Jack D, the same guy who made the Adventures of D and the Adventures of D Second Edition, which I have taken a look at on the Dungeon Dive. If you've seen that video, you will remember that it is a game that I like, but I didn't love. I have been interested in his other games, The Island of D, The Island of D 2, and The Dungeon of D. Now, The Dungeon of D is a free game that you can get on his website. I will put the link in the description below. But the game is free, but please give reviews, comments, and rate Dungeon of D via the Board Game Geek. And it's at jackdgames.com. So you can print and play your own version of the game. But I'm also going to include a link, and what I highly recommend you do is just go to Printer Studio and buy the game pre-printed and pre-made. And the cards are really nicely done, linen finish, pretty heavy duty cards. The funny thing is like this Printer Studio version of the cards, they are actually way better quality than the cards that came in the Adventure of D Second Edition, which was a Kickstarter slash retail purchase. I actually wish that you could just go to Printer Studio and buy Adventure of D there, because I would like to have my set of that game in this kind of quality. And you're just going to get a white tuck box to keep your games in, to keep your game in. It also does include a few blank cards, at least the version I got, because it doesn't use a full set of cards. Because at Printer Studio, you have to create your projects in certain set limits. So a Dungeon of D is a single deck dungeon crawl that I think is pretty fantastic. And I think it does a really good job of giving the player a full dungeon diving experience, without needing a whole bunch of components. Really, all you need is this deck of cards. You need a token to keep track of your hero, and you will need to go to the website and print out or make a PDF of the rules. So when you buy your game or when you print your game, you're going to have a couple cheat sheets that are going to help you keep track of the rules. This is not the complete rules, so you do need to read through the manual to get a fair sense of the game. But what you're going to be doing is you are going to be working down through 8 levels of a dungeon, and you're going to keep track of what level you're on with this level card. The level card is going to have different skulls for different levels. Those are going to be things that get added to certain tests at certain points during the game. So the deeper you go, cards, depending on which level you encounter them, will be more deadly. So when you start the game, you're going to put this with level 1 facing down, and then that is going to tell you which kinds of monsters and enemies you are going to be facing. On level 1, you will be facing against an ice slime, a giant bat, a skeleton, and an orc. And Jack D really is kind of like the king, I think, of multi-use cards. He gets a lot of use out of cards. A lot of people could take note of the way he uses cards. So here you have your monster cards. There are only 4 monster cards, but the cards have 4 different sides here, and depending on the level of dungeon you are in, that is going to dictate which monster. So like I said before, on level 1 you're going to be facing against ice slimes, so you're going to put that down there. You are going to be facing against giant bats, you're going to put that down there like that. Against skeletons, and then finally your green skins are the orcs. So you will be facing against the orcs, so you will put that like such. And then you have your deck of characters. And like the Adventures of D, there are quite a few characters. You have a knight, a wrestler, a priest, a dwarf, an Amazon, a bard, a brawler, a gladiator, a merchant, a thief, a hobbit, a scholar, a miner, a ninja, an elf, a monk, and a ranger, and a barbarian. So you're going to give those a shuffle, and then you're going to draw the top card to pick which character you're going to be playing as for that game. And in this game, I'm going to be playing the knight. Now, each character also has a skill, and that skill is an ability associated with that character. Throughout the game, will be multiple times where you can encounter a character. And in that case, you would draw the top card of the character deck, and if you meet a certain requirement, you would add their skill to yours. So that is one way to upgrade your character and to power up to learn new skills. So the knight has a parry skill, which helps him in melee combat. So you're going to keep your character down, kind of off the camera there, sorry about that. And then you're going to keep your deck of character cards off to the side to draw from at certain points. And then you have your main deck here, which is your power deck. So this is a deck of cards that has many uses. It's going to give you numbers that you're going to use to generate for passing tests and combat. You have intelligence cards, you have cards for agility, you have cards for strength and melee combat, and you have cards for movement. Now, each one of these cards also has a monster in the center, and it's going to give you a number, and that is the number of the monster that you are going to fight if you come across a wandering monster. And it's going to go 1, 2, 3, and 4 like that. So if this was the face-up card on the wandering monster pile, and you faced a wandering monster, you would face beast number 2 or a monster number 2, which would be a giant bat. And then each of the cards is also going to have items on one side. They're going to have potions and unique or magic items, special items. When you draw a potion, you actually draw a power card face down, and that's going to tell you that you have a potion, but you don't know what it is yet. So you have to figure out what the potion is. You have to investigate it. At certain points throughout the game, you will be able to figure out what your potion is, and then you can flip it over to find out what potion you have. There are quite a few different potions. You can also just decide to drink a mystery potion, but you never know if it's going to be good or bad. Sometimes you will be told to draw an item, in which case you're going to flip to the item side and add that to your inventory. At any point, you can have 8 cards in your inventory deck. Sometimes you might get a special item, in which case you would use the special item side, and then anything up here is going to be used as a power total for a check. Some items only have a point value, and this is to kind of grade yourself at the end of the game, because you do want to keep track of your points, because that does dictate how well you did during the game. So the lantern is only worth points at the end of the game. But there are other items that help you. I think you can also use lanterns for certain checks, like you might go into a dark room and you can use a lantern. Same with the rope, you can use ropes in different rooms. There's fairy dust, scrolls of absorbed poison, there are arrows for range combat, there are daggers. So there are quite a few different items. There are quite a few different special items that you can find, which are like more powerful, more magical based items. And then of course you also have all of your potions. So once again, like each one of these cards has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different uses. It's a really creative and economical use of a small deck of cards. Additionally, this deck of cards, when the cards are in your hand, will also act as your hit points. And you start the game with 9. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Then you put your power deck to the side there. So this represents how many hit points I have. It also represents the abilities that I have for my tests for movement or for strength, which is mainly used for melee, and then agility and intelligence. So I have 9 hit points. At any time in the game that I have 0 cards in my hand, that means I am at 0 hit points and it is game over. I am dead. And then what you want to do is you want to set up your dungeon. So you have a number of different room cards here. And every one is different. There are hidden doors, there's rusty cells, a steep chasm, a large chest, a tied figure, a peculiar shop, hall of echoes, a noxious blooms, dark storeroom, grand hall, a boulder trap, a hidden door, another hidden door, a carnivorous plant, a snake pit, another hidden door, and guardian monsters. And then you also have a mystic portal, which this is going to be how you go down into the depths of the dungeon, and also how you escape when it's time for you to escape to get out of the dungeon. So that is always going to be on every floor. And then you also have this special card here, the Pit of Darkness. And this only shows up on the 8th floor. And this is where you face off the final boss against an ice dragon. And you get the Amulet of Diogor. And then you have to escape back to the mystical portal and get out of the dungeon to win the game. So this card is only ever used in level 8. So we'll place that off to the side. And then what you're going to do is you're going to shuffle up the room deck, and you're going to draw 8 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This is going to be your level 1. You're going to take your mystic portal there, and you're going to shuffle that in. Whoa. Flying cards. And then this is going to be your level 1 dungeon. You're going to draw the first card, which is a tied figure, and you're going to put your meeple, your token, or your mini in there, and that is going to be where you are going to start off for this particular game. And as you explore, you're going to be moving in cardinal directions and drawing new room cards to see what you discover. Then you also have some fruit. Fruit is like food, and that is going to, you're going to use fruit at certain points to rest to gain back health points. And so you start the game with 2 food. So that starts there in your inventory like that. You have 2 cards to keep track of your gold. You start with 0 gold, so you want to keep your gold like that. And then as you gain gold, you will be moving the cards around to keep track of how much gold you have. So at the start of the game, we have 0 gold. You also have some cards to keep track of how many arrows you have for ranged combat. You have a card to keep track of your poison, if you ever get poisoned. You have your upgrade cards. So these are similar to Adventures of D, where if you upgrade a stat, you have strength, intelligence, and agility. You're going to take your upgrade card and you're just going to put that like that. And that is going to keep track of how much you have upgraded that ability. You start with a 0, and then you're going to get +1. You can go to +2, and the most you can ever have an ability upgraded is to +4, like that. But you start pretty weak in this game. So you start with 0. All you start with is some fruit and nothing else. And then you have 2 other cards where you, just a little epilogue. If you have escaped, you've survived. If you die, you read that. If you have the amulet, you can grab that. And then if you beat the dragon, well, then you get to have the ultimate victory. So you just set those aside. Those are unused. And then the rest of the cards, like I said, the arrow, poison, and bonus cards, you just set those to the side and grab them when you need them. So that's pretty much how you set up the game, and then everything is ready to go. The game itself is relatively simple. So each turn you can rest, you can take an action that's on the card. So each room card is going to have a different set of actions, and those are going to be shown by this A here. If the A ever has 2 parentheses on each side, then that's going to be an action that you have to take right away. So I'm starting in this card with a tied figure. This card also has a danger level. Whenever you move into a new room, you check. And whenever you check, you're going to draw the top card of the power card, and you're going to consult that number there. If that number, when you move into a new room, let's say I was moving from this tied figure into the steep chasm, which has a danger level of 2, I would have to check for a wandering monster. And I would move and then check for wandering monster. If the result is greater than the danger level, you meet no monster. If the result is equal to or less than the danger level, you meet a wandering monster. So in this case, the steep chasm really isn't that dangerous of a room regarding monsters. So you would draw a card and you would see that it's a 3. It's greater than the challenge or the danger level, so no monster. But on your turn, so you can move into a new room. You can do an action that's on the card. So in this case, you can, a character is tied to the wall. You may try to save that character. So if you have the rope, you want to check your agility and you want to get a 6 or more. Otherwise, it's a 7 or more. So what you would do is you would look at your cards to see if you wanted to do that, to see what you have. So as of right now, I don't have the rope, so it's going to be a more difficult check. I don't have any innate abilities in agility. My agility is a 0 right now, so I would need to get a 7 or more. So what you do is you look at this. So my agility is 5. I have 2 agility cards, 5 or 2. If you play a card from your hand to pass a check and it matches the ability called for on the check, you get to immediately draw a card into your hand. So that's one way of hand that you want to keep track of hand management, because remember, this is also your hit points. So let's say I really wanted to free that figure. I would play my agility 5 card into this discard pile here. That's my check. That's my first check. I would draw a card into my hand to replenish that because I did match the ability. And then I would draw a second card and add that total to my check. So that is a 10. So I passed this test. I saved that figure. So I go to the win condition. I would get 3 gold and meet a character, then exhaust this room. Okay, so I would add 3 gold. There we go. And I would get to meet a character. So that means I get to draw a character and potentially add its skill to mine. However, I don't meet the requirements because you can have 1 skill. You can have your intelligence level plus 1 skills. Right now I have 1, my parry. So if I drew this character, I could not add smash to my skills until I upgraded my intelligence to 1. If that was the case, I could go ahead and add that character's card underneath my knight, which would add that special ability to my knight. But I can't do that. So all I got from that was 3 gold. And that did cost me a 5 level card. Well, and another thing you could do is you can move. So you can discard any card to move 1 space. But if you discard a move card to move, well, then you can replenish that card by drawing a power card from the deck back into your hand. So I would play this move 1 card to move. I would replenish that with an intelligence card. And then I would pick a cardinal direction here and explore into the next room, which was the dark storeroom. So I would place my mini over there and move into the dark storeroom. And here we have, so this is an automatic check. You have to do this. You can't see a thing here. If you don't have a lantern, you must immediately move again. Okay, so this is where that lantern item comes in. If you have a lantern, you can search the dark storeroom. But I don't have a lantern, so I have to keep moving. Now that is an automatic move, so you don't need to spend another card to move. So you just draw and you want to pick another location. We'll go here, and we have come to a large chest. Okay, so do this action only if there are at least 4 revealed rooms on this level. So once we have revealed 4 rooms, we can come back to this room to investigate this large chest. There are quite a few rooms like this where, depending on the level they are drawn, depending on how many rooms you have explored, then certain things happen and certain things don't happen. So really a neat system there to keep the dungeons interesting. Even though you're going to be seeing some of the same cards throughout a game, they will operate differently depending on how far into the game you are. So I would move there, but now I have to check my danger level. My danger level on this card here is a 4. So I draw the top card here, and it is a 1. Remember, if the result is greater than the danger level, you meet no monster. If the result is less than or equal to the danger level, you meet a wandering monster. And the wandering monster right now is, you look at the top of the wandering monster discard pile here, and it's number 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I would have to face off against an orc. So an orc has a strength of 8 in melee, It has an intelligence of 4, an agility of 4, and 4 gold would be the reward for killing the orc. So right now I'm fighting an orc. When you fight, there is a first round of ranged combat. I don't have any ranged combat, so we would go straight to melee combat. So the orc has a strength of 8. I need to hit that 8 or beat it. So we have what you do is you want to select a card to use. You can use any card, but in melee combat, if you lead off with the strength, then you can replenish a card from the power deck so you don't lose any hit points. So I really want to beat this orc, so I'm going to lead off with a 5. I'm going to replenish the card, and then I'm going to draw 1 card to add to my check. So a 5 plus 1 is a 6. I do not beat the orc, so the orc does 1 hit point of damage back to me. So I would have to discard a card, and I'm going to discard 1 intelligence. And the discards go into a different pile than your wandering monster and check pile. So that is discarded there. Okay, so then you keep going in combat. You can try to escape, but I'm going to try to beat the orc again. I still have a strength 5, so I'm going to discard the 5. I can redraw to replenish since I led off with the right stat. And then I would add a 4 to that, giving me a 9, which beats the orc. So the orc is dead, and I would gain 4 gold as an award. All right, so I was at 3, so I would go up to 7 gold. So there I have 7 gold. And yeah, you keep doing that until you are moving throughout the dungeon. You can find shops where you can spend your gold to buy potions, items, arrows, special items. You can pay 0 to detect. You can detect a potion so you can figure out what a potion is. You can sell items. You can meet a character, which is a way to upgrade your character, like we've said before. And you're going to be searching for that mystical portal there. Whoops, looks like, there we go. And then you would go to the mystical portal, and then you would want to go down a level. You can descend. You feel yourself sink down through the floor. Then you would be on level 2. You would reset up your dungeon, and then you would go down to level 2. You want to play the game until you reach level 8. So really, really neat game. It has so much going on with just a pretty small deck of cards. I think it's 90 cards. The rooms are interesting with different kinds of traps. And like I said, depending on where you encounter the room, it's going to be different. The way the monsters change on each floor is pretty cool. They don't have a lot of theme, a lot of art or special. They do have special powers. So as the monsters get more dangerous, you will be facing things like such as flying monsters or poisonous monsters. They can regenerate. This is a flying smart and regenerate. So there is the ice dragon there, and the list of the special powers that the monster has are in the Dungeon of D manual there. But yeah, this is a really neat game. I enjoy this game a lot. I think having the permanence of the dungeon floor set up to where you can go from room to room adds a feeling of exploration. Sometimes you will exhaust a room because you can only do it once, and then you just turn the room upside down. But it does give that feeling of you're not just turning over a card. A lot of these one-deck dungeon style games, you're just moving through a deck without really feeling like you're moving through a dungeon. This game gives you that feeling that you're moving through a dungeon. There is a lot of surprises, all the ways that the different cards are used. Just really kind of a super well-designed game. It's very clever. That's the word I was trying to think of, clever. It's a cleverly designed game that makes do with a few components, but simulates a much grander experience. I get the feeling of playing this game, the same kind of feeling that I do when I play a game of Dungeoneer solo. But this works better, I think, as a solo game because it is designed specifically as a solo game. Whereas Dungeoneer really excels as a competitive card-based dungeon crawl. But yeah, if you are interested in this, I highly recommend this going. Maybe, it's free, so you can go and check it out. If you like it, I do highly recommend using the Printer Studio link to get a set of really nice cards like this. I'm super glad that I went ahead and and bought this game, and this is something I'm going to return to over and over again. So, all right, guys, well, take it easy. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.